no requirement that you have a certain publication. We're looking for well-rounded individuals, people that display leadership qualities and who will represent America abroad in a proper way and in a good way. We have faculty members and administrators from many, many different schools all over the United States, large schools, small schools, community colleges, as I mentioned. And I just think it's important to emphasize that Fulbright is an elite program, but it's not elitist. It's not this ivory tower program that is unattainable for people. We really want to encourage as many people to apply as possible. So please do consider it. Yes?
Consider it to faculty, or can there be independent students that
Absolutely.
PhDs or activists?
Yes. In fact, a fairly large contingent of our folks that go abroad are not affiliated with the university in a traditional sense. And then we'll talk a little bit about the sort of changing demographics of our applicants. We have a very large push now to get more artists and professionals to apply, lawyers, folks who play musical instruments, filmmakers. We had our first Oscar nominee, I believe, this year, Rebecca Camisa, who went to Mexico and did a documentary about migrant children from Guatemala. Is that right? Transiting through Mexico. Anyway, it was nominated for an Academy Award in Best Documentary. So we encourage people all across the board. It's not just for faculty. And administrators are obviously welcome to apply as well. We've got programs. So consider representing your country abroad, and thank you very much. We'll be around and happy to answer any more questions you have. But really, Ed is the man event. Senator Fulbright, really.
Thank you, Jamie. I think what I might do after we get to that is this is a little unorthodox. So I'm going to cover process first, and I'm going to go to the actual grants. I just think you need to understand how we come up with the catalog and really how many moving parts there are to Fulbright. It's important because when we created the catalog, it's a new competition every year, and I mean that very, very literally. So last year's awards catalog would have, in many cases, very, very different awards that don't exist in this year's catalog. It's a trend actually we're trying to discourage, because we know that you have so much planning on your end, thinking about going abroad for the entire year. You've got to line up your sabbatical, you've got to line up your housing situation, lots of moving parts to that. And so one encouraging trend we're seeing in the development of the catalog every year is some awards are being kept from year to year. That is happening. Process-wise, what happens when we create the competition every year for U.S. faculty and administrators is this. We put out a call to U.S. posts and really embassies overseas, and about 50 Fulbright commissions. So in terms of the breadth of this, we have about 130 or so participating countries. Of those 130 participating countries, there are 50 NGOs that are Fulbright commissions. And they operate just like the NGOs they are. They have their own boards. They have typically very large programs, because they're also doing new countries for the program. The remaining Fulbright programs are run out of the U.S. Embassy. You have a cultural attaché or a affairs officer in the country. And it's their job, much like the Fulbright Commission staff, to get to know the host institutions. And, of course, the Ministry of Education, et cetera, in that country. We put out a call to that group every year. It's early fall. So let's talk about the grants that we have immediately available right now. So we'll back up and look at the fall of 2009. We put out a call and said, we're going to put together the catalog for the next competition. Please submit your grant requests, grant descriptions. Our staff in Washington, D.C., at CIS, then works with them to say, this is a really good award description, or this is not going to appeal to you as faculty because disciplines in this country are stated, better characterized this way or that way. A lot of back and forth. The state then weighs in at the end of that process and blesses the description and says this is something that the taxpayers will support or not support. We'd like to see these kinds of changes. That process takes place throughout the fall. In January, we finalize the catalog of awards, and we launch it in February. I mention that in part because when you are getting close to making a decision about whether or not you want to apply for a Fulbright and you know which one specifically you would like, or even, I'll back up, even if you don't know which country, but you made the decision, yes, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and I'd like to apply to this. Our staff have been part of the process in creating the award description. They, in many cases, know not just their counterparts overseas, but sometimes many of the administrators that are helping to create the awards on the other side of the hemisphere. And that's important because if you don't know where to start, our staff are a tremendous resource to guide you to what we're going to look at in the catalog. How many of you have a country already picked out? You know pretty much where you're going to go. It's typical, it's about a third. So that's okay because our staff, they're trained, the program staff, to walk you through that process. And I'm going to go through some of the basics here today. So hope that helps give you a sense of how to create the catalog. I'm going to go through deadlines and what happens after that at the end of the presentation. So that takes us up to the present. Why you consider Fulbright? I think I'll go quickly here because you're here for a reason. You pretty much understand what we are driving at here. The last one at the bottom is interesting, represent your country. So you'll see in many of our materials we say, represent American scholarship abroad. And what we did was we commissioned a study last year as part of our effort to ensure an even more competitive applicant pool to better understand how the program was perceived by you essentially, and your colleagues in the academy here in the U.S. And with the change of administrations, we learned that there was kind of a renewed sense of wanting to represent the U.S. And so this is how the program is perceived and how we think it's a strong appeal, we think, to wanting to do this, beyond just the cultural immersion you're going to get with your family. Which is another thing we learned in the study, was that there is a myth, it seems, that you can't bring your family with you on your Fulbright. The program actually does provide funding in many cases, and you'll learn today that one of the, it's, I think, kind of a frustrating answer, but kind of had to many questions is, it depends. So I'm going to say that a lot to some of your questions. Because all the different posts and commissions that I mentioned, many of them putting in their own dollars, it just varies from award to award. But many of the awards, I can tell you, do allow for funding to pay for your dependents to travel abroad with you and your significant other. That's important because we had, for all American ambassadors, if you will, overseas, we've heard story after story of faculty whose children connected with the hometown newspaper here in the U.S. They blog about their experiences. I mean, you can turn this into a family adventure, really. Okay. Eligibility requirements. We'll get the basic material out of the way quickly. Must be a U.S. citizen. Must have a PhD or a terminal degree in your field. However, there is an exception to this, and what I want to make sure that you get is, the back of the room, I hope you still have some of these left. If not, I'll just direct you so we can find us online. The snapshot of what we're going to look at right now is the catalog of awards. And under the very bottom of that, we don't see we have that one. Great. Let me read that aloud for you now. Make sure you get this. This has a type of grant available, but it's teaching or research, and whether or not PhD is required. And you can see that of the nearly 600 awards in the catalog, 436 required PhD, 96 do not. 96 do not. That's important to those of you who are administrators who don't have a PhD, professionals, as Jamie mentioned, is a big area of interest for us to make sure that photographers go overseas on Fulbrights, attorneys, artists, etc. There are limits to prior Fulbrighters applying for this. May I see again, show of hands, everybody who's been out on it, not a student Fulbrighter, but a scholar. And you had one or two? One? No, three, okay. Here's what happened. Jamie, I like the way you put it. The program is elite, but it's not elitist. Let me just explain a bit what we mean by that. The Fulbright Scholarship Board, which is appointed by the president, 12 members, they set the policy for the program. They decided in 2006 that there were too many repeat Fulbrighters, people going abroad on the program 3, 4, 5 times. And so they wanted to open it up to many, many more individuals to give faculty more opportunities for faculty to participate in the program. We made a policy decision in 2006 to say that you can have only a maximum of 2 Fulbright grants. And by 2 Fulbright grants, I mean the core program. I'm going to spend most of the next half hour or so just talking about the core program. So the supplemental programs, the critique programs I'll talk about also. The core program then would have 1 long-term grant that's up to an academic year or a semester. And again, going back to it depends, this year there's an exception to that rule. Welcome to Washington, right? And that rule is this. Indonesia, as Jamie mentioned, very important to the president, and Pakistan. If you elect your colleagues to hear about this presentation, you've been on 2 and so it's not tap out, there's exceptions made for the next 3 years for applicants to go to Pakistan or Indonesia, where all the limits are waived. So just know that. There are limits to prior Fulbright Scholar grantees. The critique program we're going to talk about later on, I'll just very quickly say this, that because they're shorter term programs, it has half a credit to that lifetime limit. So some faculty like to go on a apply for core grant, knowing you keep at it, and in fact get one of those, and then go on a specialist grant later, which would be half of a credit to the 2 maximum, or the other way around. Or you do 4 short-term grants on the specialty program. Some language requirements. English is going to be suitable for most of the awards we'll look at in a moment. Sometimes, particularly for the Western Hemisphere, Portuguese and Spanish is required. That's also true for Francophone Africa. English is usually just fine. And by the way, you'll see when we get to the catalog that the descriptions are very clear about that. So there's no guessing. It's just the very clearly states that. Scope. Now this is interesting. You have a large number here. I said 600 earlier, and we explained the difference. There's 600 grants in the catalog of awards. However, because of the increase in funding, and we may in fact be in the golden age for Fulbright because there's so much interest in this program from governments around the world, that many of the grants descriptions you read, it'll say at the very top, up to 4 awards, or up to 3 awards may be offered. So you get these larger numbers. It also means that there are an administrator and the seminars also. There are the short-term grants there that we'll talk about too. 2 to 12 months for the core awards. And this gives you a sense of what the activity looks like. In terms of a breakdown, you see most of them are teaching or teaching research. And a very small number, just about a quarter or so, of research-only grants. This is what I call my exception slide. Again, it depends. Most of the grants we're going to look at are by discipline. There are also these multi-country opportunities. There aren't very many, so that's why we like to specify them here. What these are about is if you have a research project in mind where you really need to travel beyond just one country. The Sub-Saharan African one, for example, and there's more than one offer, would allow you to do precisely that. The funding would be paid for traveling throughout the Sub-Saharan continent. Same with these other regions that's listed here. Pretty self-explanatory. Just wanted to call that to your attention so that if it does interest you, be sure to look for that.
Excuse me,
yes.
These are just regions, particularly Western Hemisphere, because of Canada, Mexico, Uruguay, and America, Argentina, Uruguay. I assume you're talking about that kind of Libya or other countries, Peru and Chile and Ecuador and Colombia.
No, what we've done, and maybe it's misleading, I'm sorry, but the Western Hemisphere is just a little region where this particular type of award is just for Canada and Mexico because they're the ones putting in the money. Right. Okay. So, if you would like to apply, and we'll look at the calendar in just a moment, everything where you're going to see is on the following website, ie.org/CIES. You'll find the calendar awards, you'll find the application there, program overview, tips on how to apply. Look for something called My Fulbright. And My Fulbright is an inquiry module that indicates your interest in a particular region or country. That tells the program officers, if you want to go to Brazil, no one that covers Mozambique is going to call you, for example. There's also something really critical in My Fulbright, and that is this, a sample project statement. We, for years, had never done that, and we have received so many requests. What does my project statement, what should it really look like? Can I see some successful ones? And so we put together a composite last year. To register for that, you'll get access to it. I also should mention, too, that the webinars are offered every Wednesday at 2 p.m. This is done by the program staff. These are individuals, as I mentioned, with relationships with their counterparts overseas. It's done by world region. You will be able to, if you have a sense for what region you'd like to go to, but you don't have a country chosen just yet, that's a great option for you. The closer we get to August 2, the topics will shift, and for example, we have a few set up on how to put together a competitive application, how to craft your project statement, and so you'll have all of those archived as well. So if you miss one, or if something's already happened